These are Fibre 1 90 calories, 90 calorie brownies. And one brownie is 90 calories. And wait, hold on. Are these the same brownie?
No, it is. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a bit thinner than the one on the box. Oh, it is? Okay. Well, put that back. And these are regular brownies I made from a White Wings box mix. And a brownie the same size... No, hold on. These are not the same size. Do you have a knife?
Yeah, no.
Okay, thank you. Let's just cut the bottom off this one. Here we go. Okay. And a regular brownie the same size is 90.5. Wait.
What?
Hi, my name is BJ, and I am a graphic design student. Being a new designer in this marketing space, it's like being a failed musician who is fooled by their own tricks. I'm learning these tactics, but I'm also constantly falling for them in my everyday life. But the thing is, deceptive tricks in marketing are illegal. According to the ACCC, businesses mustn't mislead customers. Except these laws are so ambiguous, and finding a loophole is like finding the sun. Legal deception is a form of deceptive marketing tactic that uses technically true statements, statistics, or just completely omits any incriminating information about their product to manipulate the way the consumer perceives the product in the packaging, all without technically breaking the law. But then that begs the question, to what extent can a brand manipulate consumer perception before it becomes deceptive and illegal? Because actually, the ACCC outlines that any statement that may lead to a false impression may be breaking the law. So why aren't more brands being held accountable when clearly some deception is happening here? Why did we assume one brownie must be a lower calorie option to the other when it isn't really? All brands have a what? What is the product being produced? What is the service being provided? And all brands have a how. How is the product being produced and how is it being provided to the consumer? Together, they create a straight line, a viable business. But there is one more criterion that many brands get wrong. Imagine the brand were to just completely disappear tomorrow. No more customers, no more product, no more pretty visuals. What would be left? And would it be net positive or net negative? This is a good way of thinking of the why. And when we add it to our diagram, the brand is given a whole new dimension. It's given meaning. But in order for that why to be true, it needs to be evident in every single decision the brand makes. And if it's ever being contradicted, you're probably being manipulated. What is the first fact you gain about the product when you look at this? You know, the calorie count. It is one of the biggest elements in a contrasting color underneath the logo, and is even used when it's not connected to any particular product, like in the search bar of their website. But when the claim about the nutrition of a product becomes problematic is when it's removed from all context. Like here, what serving size is it referring to? And is it boasting calories because of its low content, or high content, or regular content? These are the connections that the brand wants the consumer to make, because chances are it'll benefit them. This is known as the anchoring bias. And it works. Remember that why I was talking about? The consumer is actually constantly subconsciously picking out the whys in every brand that they look at. And the consumer has now gotten the word fiber and 90 calorie and has reasonably deduced the why of the Fibre 1 brand. to provide a healthier dessert alternative. So now, when they pick it up off the shelf, they're halfway sold, and everything they read is in rose-colored glasses. Guilt-free indulgence. Have what you crave. We all need a moment or two every day to indulge. But the consumer doesn't realize at this point that these phrases aren't promoting a healthy lifestyle. They're encouraging you to consume more brownies while still boasting their 90-calorie claim that only applies if you eat one. The why is being contradicted, and you are being manipulated. But guys, Fibre One isn't all that bad. In fact, they have done the consumer a favor, okay, by comparing themselves to a competitor on the bottom back of the box that reads, Fibre One 90-calorie contains 25% less fat than Nature Valley crunchy Canadian maple syrup. Except they weren't kind enough to differentiate what kind of fat they were talking about. Fibre One is epitomizing legal deception here, choosing to compare their total fat content to their competitor while admitting that the product they're comparing themselves to has significantly less saturated fats than their brownie. So, while we're framing information, Fibre One, the Fibre One 90-calorie brownie contains 300% more saturated fats than Nature Valley's crunchy Canadian maple syrup bar. But just wait a second, before you go out to buy a Nature Valley, consider this. In an incredibly ironic twist, I discovered that Fibre One 90-calorie is owned by the parent company General Mills, who, among many other brands, also owns Nature Valley. I feel like I'm going crazy! Huh. So that would explain why at multiple of my local Woolworths and Coles, Fibre One is stocked directly next to the Nature Valley. The intra-brand selective comparison is when a parent company compares one of their products to their competitor, which they also own. It means that their chances of being under fire for comparing themselves to a competitor is zero, because they are the competitor. But above that, they're creating a false sense of competition on the shelf. The consumer reads that this product is better than the other one, except if they buy either product, it's going to the same place. So there you go. Some telling signs that you might be being deceived through the why. But as consumers, we can't be possibly expected to see through every single marketing tactic. But as designers, we're expected to use these tactics to increase sales. So there's this conflict of interest that is creating this toxic marketplace. But we can do it. I think if we work together, we can make our shelves more truthful. We can refuse to use these tactics and say, you know what? Trust is more important. And as consumers, we can vote with our money and we can change what is expected. But in the meantime, you can actually just forget everything that I've ever said about the Fibre One brand. In fact, I shouldn't have even made this video, because Fibre One has actually clearly and blatantly stated their why. On the right side of the box, at the bottom in tiny letters above their contact information, reads, the Fibre One promise. We promise delicious taste, good source of fibre, and convenience. So, if you purchase this brownie, and ever assumed that you might have been purchasing something with lower calories or something a little healthier, well, you're not. And if you thought that, that's on you. Thank you for watching. If you as a consumer have noticed any deception in our marketplace, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have a good day. Bye.